Welcome to our podcast. This is Friends on Fire.
I'm Mike. I'm a lifelong devotee of financial independence. I even wrote a book about it.
And I'm Maggie, a newer convert, but just as passionate, especially on the intersection of minimalism and financial independence.
We're one and the same.
We are two like-minded friends who believe that talking about money with your friends and family opens the door to financial well-being.
The Friends on Fire podcast is about dispelling myths, building financial acumen, and sharing your financial independence journey with the people you care about.
This is Friends on Fire.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Maggie.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
It's 2022.
Can you believe we are in our third year of podcasting?
I thought you were going to make I thought you were counting coronavirus years, actually. I thought you were going to say our third year of dealing with the coronavirus, which happens to coincide with podcasting. So it's easy to keep count of both of them. Yeah, it is our third year of podcasting. That's maybe a better thing to commemorate.
So what are we talking about today?
So, Mike, this is the time of year when everyone, or I would say everybody, but many people are very focused on New Year's resolutions. And often that includes for people something around getting healthier, working out, eating healthier, trying to become a better version of themselves. And so this is an episode that I've wanted to do for a while. And it's something that it personally means a lot to me. But also we actually had someone ask on Instagram for more details around this. And I was like, we should do an episode on this. At first, I didn't think about it because it wasn't, directly tied to money per se. But actually, we're going to talk about how meditation and money meet and come together and where they are tied in, and a lot about meditation. But I think this is fitting as our first episode of the new year because there is so much value that you can get physically and emotionally from meditation and on your wallet, which we'll make the connection to and talk about. And so I think it's a good time because look, we're all in this, it's a clean slate. It's a new year. We're thinking about what we can do to better ourselves. And so we are going to talk about meditation today.
And we are also announcing that Friends on Fire is no longer a personal finance podcast. We're going to be talking about all kinds of self-help in 2022.
He's only half joking.
Yeah, I'm half joking.
We're still a personal finance podcast, but self-help and personal finance, hand in hand.
That's right.
Okay. So Mike, have you ever meditated?
Yes, a lot.
When and how and where? I don't know this about you.
Sporadically. So I get inspired by it when I read certain books that talk about the benefits of it, which are everywhere. I mean, all kinds of books that talk about self-improvement, talk about the benefits of meditation.
Yeah.
And so whatever that author is talking about at the time, I'll try it out for a period of time. And it's hard for me to stick with because I think like everybody else, there are a number of things I'm always working on at any given time. And this one is just because it involves a time commitment, like an unshakable time commitment. It's just hard for me to stick with.
Well, we'll talk more about that time commitment piece because it depends how you're practicing it on whether it really involves a large time commitment, right? There's small ways to do it and larger ways to do it. But I think it's interesting that you just mentioned, how much it's talked about, because you're right. It's talked about everywhere these days. It's much more commonplace and well understood and researched and everything else and kind of publicized than it was 10 years ago. And even like trendy, if I could say. I actually saw a stat when I was looking up some more modern stats on meditation that 14% of, I think the US, or I don't know if that was a world stat or a US stat, but 14% of the world regularly meditates, which is just interesting because to me, I'm not sure if that's even higher or lower than I would have expected. But what's interesting to me about meditation, tied to a couple of things you said, is it is one of the few things that you can do to improve your mental and physical health that is completely free, that requires no tools or resources or equipment. Like you don't need a treadmill. You don't need the weather to be good. You don't need a yoga mat. You don't need an instructor. You don't need all these things you need to improve these things where other things you need all that stuff. Meditation, you just need yourself. You need what you always have on you, in case you're wondering. And if you have a smartphone, there's even more tools because there's some great apps that can help to support you and kind of help you stick with it also. So let's dig into it. We are going to run through what meditation is, some of the benefits of meditation, how meditation can actually improve your finances. Then we're going to actually talk about how to meditate at a high level, right? We're not going to go into great depth there. And so I hope this is a discussion that people find helpful. So let's jump in.
Yeah. And then at the end of the episode, we will have a 2.5-hour guided meditation session, which everyone can sit through. Just kidding. We don't have that kind of time.
Okay. So let's talk about what meditation is. I give you a couple different people's definitions because sometimes instead of trying to like reword this 50 times, I just like to go to a trusted source. So we all know Wikipedia. Wikipedia defines it as meditation is a practice where an individual uses a technique such as mindfulness or focusing the mind on a particular object, thought, or activity to train attention and awareness and achieve a mentally clear and emotionally calm and stable state. Meditation is practiced in numerous religious traditions, including Buddhism, which is where I learned a lot about it and kind of got into it initially.
And the definition from Headspace, which is a popular app in this area, meditation isn't about becoming a different person, a new person, or even a better person. It's about training in awareness and getting a healthy sense of perspective. You're not trying to turn off your thoughts or feelings. You're learning to observe them without judgment, and eventually you may start to better understand them as well.
I love the part where they say you're not trying to turn off your thoughts or feelings, Mike, that you're learning to observe them without judgment, because that's what actually derails a lot of people that I have talked to on meditation. They say like, well, I can't sit still and I can't sit quietly. We'll talk more about that at the end when we actually talk about how to meditate.
So what is your definition of meditation?
Okay. My definition, you're rarely going to get a lot of brevity from me, Mike, is sitting quietly.
Maggie, I have never once seen you sit quietly.
Yeah, I do when I meditate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then you let it all out on the podcast?
I do, yeah. And then it's funny, I thought you were going to say, I've never once seen you define something in 2 words.
Oh, well, that too.
Which also hasn't happened. So perhaps it's all the meditation that's making me more brief. What's your definition?
So the definition that resonated the most with me is about, look at us. I am going to give you so much context and you are the one who gives the brief answer.
I love it. 2022, the year that Mike and Maggie
switch places,
exchanged context.
The definition that really resonated with me was about the difficulty in quieting the thoughts in your brain. And Maggie, you just touched on it. When people start to meditate, they're like, I am constantly swirling in my mind. I can't stay focused. I'm thinking about these different things. I get distracted. And what meditation means to me is actively trying to recognize those thoughts, quiet them and push them away so that you can continue focusing on being still present and mindful quiet. And still. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, that's a great way of saying it.
So it is about the challenge of doing that, not about immediately just doing away with it, because I think it's impossible, right? Like you can't turn
even
it
the
off.
best, even like monks who, meditate for hours every day and they still have what people call monkey mind, which we'll talk about later, right? Okay. So one other term we'll define for people, because mindfulness and meditation are very closely linked. And so and you'll hear that term a lot if you read about meditation and other things. So mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us. Mindfulness is a quality that every human being already possesses. It's not something you have to conjure up. It's just something that you have to learn how to access. And so mindfulness meditation is actually a type of meditation, but you'll just hear those words used together a lot, mindfulness and meditation. Mm-hmm. And on that note, there's a lot of different types of meditation. There's transcendental meditation, which is how I was originally trained. I've also taken some other classes on other types of mindfulness meditation. So don't get overwhelmed by all the different types. We'll put a link in the show notes to a lot of different types of meditation. But again, I wouldn't, if you're new to meditation, I wouldn't stress out about that piece of it and all the different types of meditation, because we'll talk about some simple ways to get started and some simple and free apps to use to help you get started and stick with it also.
All right, so let's run through some benefits of meditation.
Okay, we're going to run through these quickly, and we'll put a link in the show notes to a couple different articles that actually source the research that supports all these statements. There's a massive amount of scientific medical research that supports all of these statements. There's been a ton of studies done for many, many, many decades. Some of this stuff, it's not a new thing. It goes back very far. So we're not going to quote all that here for the sake of time. We're just going to give you the, high level points of the benefits.
First one is that meditation reduces stress. And I think this is the one that everyone is aware of. Even if they don't practice it, they know that meditation reduces stress.
Yeah. The other one is meditation can also add years to your life. There's incontrovertible evidence that stress, if not dealt with effectively, can take years off your life. So just like Mike said, actually meditating has proven to make you live longer, which, look, we all do some crazy things to try to live longer and be healthier. And again, this is a simple free thing that you can invest in every day to help you.
Meditation can also change your brain. It's called neuroplasticity. And I'm not an expert on this, but I've read about it before. So it can improve your capacity for perspective taking and decision making.
So other ways that the neuroplasticity that Mike was mentioning, where it literally can rewire your brain, is it can enhance your emotional intelligence. It can improve your ability to act with clarity and wisdom. It has been compared to boosting your immune system. It has such positive benefits.
And it will make you a happier person because of all of those things which we've just listed off. And the best part is it's free. It's been proven over thousands of years. And so perhaps you should try it if you're not already doing it.
That's the thing I love about meditation, Mike, is, if I started with, I have something that for free you can do, you don't have to leave your home. It's, 5 to 20 minutes a day, and it'll make you a happier, more successful, whatever person, fill in the blank on what you care about person in life. It's like, wouldn't you want to know what it is? Wouldn't you want to try to do it? It feels like I'm selling like snake oil or something.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, it sounds like I've got like a multi-level marketing scheme I'm trying to pull you into, but it's not. Ooh, I should start an MLM focused on meditation. I would sell like hotcakes.
Yeah.
Just kidding. That would be.
You would become the person you hate, though. You hate those things.
Okay, let's shift. So a few stats that, again, we'll put a link in the show notes to where they're sourced from, but a few stats just to bring to life how positive the impact of meditation can be. So Mike, we just talked about all the different ways that meditation can improve your life, and we didn't put a lot of numbers around that. We'll put some links in the show notes to some articles that have different research studies and some harder numbers, but just to give you a sense, there's really high success with meditation improving all the things. It's not like it could reduce your stress. It's like it does reduce your stress based on all the research and studies that have been done. So I give you an example, like meditation relieves symptoms of insomnia 70% of the time. It lowers your blood pressure 80% of the time. And there's just, again, there's all these very kind of what I would say incontrovertible evidence that meditation has a positive impact on you emotionally and physically. So again, we'll quit on this point because we hope that the point has come across that there's just a slew of benefits to meditation that can be really helpful. So we can shift over to some thoughts on how meditation can actually improve your finances, since this is a personal finance podcast.
So the first one is, if you subscribe to the belief that stress has physical manifestations in your health, so a stressful job or a stressful life can create physical ailments, then meditating regularly can reduce your costs of physical and mental health services.
And a really specific one, Mike, is I'm half joking, but it's a lot cheaper than therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So therapy can get really expensive. I am pro therapy. I have, on and off throughout my life seen a therapist. But meditation can solve for a lot of reasons why people want to see a therapist. Not all of them.
I thought you were going to remind us about some of the medical conditions you brought up in our recent episode.
No, but we'll see if it can fix some of those things. I don't know. I don't know if meditation can fix a UTI. I think that's one thing that it does not help. Okay.
Let's do a long-term study over it, Maggie.
Yeah, I'll be the subject. Okay. Also, another way that meditation can improve your finances, stick with me here for a minute. We already know it increases your happiness level. And there's a lot of research that when you are happier, you spend less money trying to fill voids in your life with stuff. So you won't eat or shop as much to reduce your stress. You won't try to keep up with the Joneses as much. You'll be more inherently just happy with yourself and with what you have and grateful for what you have. And you'll find an internal level of happiness that will last. And there's a ton of research around this. You got to stick with it though, right? You can't meditate once and all of a sudden, feel better. that same day. But within a week or two, you should start to notice some of these benefits, sometimes within even just a couple of days. In general, you will just become more mindful about everything, including your spending.
And another way to think about this is, I think it is common for people to eat or shop online or do other types of somewhat destructive activities when they are bored. And so if you can recognize when your mind is wandering, when you are bored, when you are in need of activity, and put that towards meditation, this can very directly help you reduce your overeating, reduce your overspending.
Yeah, in general, it will help you make better decisions instead of acting on impulse, right? It'll get you in touch with what truly matters in life, which I don't believe is physical objects. And I think, Mike, you agree. You're even better at recognizing that than I am. It can free you from an attachment to material goods.
One of the other benefits of meditation is that it helps you focus on longer term goals rather than short term, what you described as the monkey mind, Maggie, of decisions based on emotions or your mind reacting to some stimuli that's right in front of you. If you can recognize when your mind is wandering and then control it, this helps you develop that skill in focusing on a long-term mindset.
Yeah, I always think of this, but it's a simple example that I think many people can relate to. Before I had kids, I used to work late at work a lot just because I had a bad relationship with work. And I, on my way home, would often want to stop and pick up takeout food that wasn't good for me, that cost more money than I needed to spend, and that was just not going to make me feel great at the end of the day, right? Like eating a bunch of just processed, like not healthy food was not going to make me feel as good. But I would justify it because I was like, well, I'm stressed. I just spent all night working. I just spent this long day at the office. And meditation is something that can help you not make decisions like that, which again are focused on a short-term decision, not a long-term decision of how I'm going to feel later that night or how I'm going to feel the next day, or if that's in line with some of my health goals. And so it really can be helpful. It changes the way your brain is wired through the neuroplasticity concept we mentioned.
And the last point, to bring it back into the purpose of this podcast, is that meditation can help you make money.
Is this through my MLM meditation?
No, it is not through it. It is not through a scheme.
Because yes, meditation can help you make money, Mike.
So the thing about money, if you've been listening to this show, is that there's no get rich quick scheme. There is no silver bullet to understanding the stock market. It is about having a healthy relationship with money. And meditation helps you drown out the external stimuli, which is creating the bad behavior in your mind about money. And so if you can focus better and give yourself a little more clarity, if you can reduce the impact that external stimuli from marketers and your peers have on you, you will make more money by extension. And I think this is where we really want to hammer home the point that there is definitely a relationship between money and mindfulness.
Yeah. And Mike, you use the word extension, right? One of the extensions of meditation and mindfulness is that you can become more successful at work because you'll be more productive and more focused, which can lead to more promotions and more success at work. And I'll give a very personal example. Since I started meditating, which was, 5-6 years ago, I can't even remember exactly. One of the things that I think I'm good at work and that I think helped me be successful is I'm able to work with anybody, all types of people, and do it successfully, even when they might be abrasive, right? I'm able to take the higher road and just, work effectively with them. I'm able to let a lot of things go at work, right? I'm not always great at just the volume of things and the stress that can put on me, but the bureaucracy or the politics or other things, I'm able to separate them and say, you know what, this is just a piece of work. I'm not going to get caught up in this, and I'm not going to let this derail me. I'm going to stay focused on what I'm trying to deliver and what I'm trying to do and what our end goal is, and not get caught up in this piece. And that is something when we talk about kind of emotional and physical well-being and EQ and IQ, which is really what makes you more successful professionally over time, is a combination of high EQ and high IQ. The EQ piece, meditation can help you with that. Right. And it really can enhance your emotional intelligence, which we talked about. And that's one of the big tie-ins to money, right? Aside from, we've talked a lot about from a money angle, and just in general, we talk about, right, the way that you're going to do well with your money is two pieces of the equation, right? It's what comes in, so how much you're making, and then it's also what goes out, right? And we've been talking about what goes out a lot, right? And that's what you were just talking about, Mike, right? The way you're able to have views on spending your money, but there's also the what comes in piece, right? And I actually believe meditation can help you on both ends of that equation, which really are the two things that you need to improve from a personal finance standpoint.
So let's give a brief run through about how you actually meditate.
Okay. So first off, I am not a licensed meditation teacher, right? I've been through
a lot of... Is that a thing though?
It is actually, yeah. There are a lot of, there's people that are licensed in teaching certain types of meditation.
Licensed by whom? You know what? I'm getting on a soapbox.
I mean, there's like a TM organization, they're like self-created, organizations, but the same thing that licenses all sorts of stuff, right? Is someone created an organization that licenses professional organizers, right? And now you can say you're licensed. Okay. So the point is, I've not spent, hundreds of hours studying this and training in this. So I'm going to give you some basics to get you started. Like I said at the very beginning, there are a lot of different types and variations of meditation. We'll put a link in the show notes that walks through 9 different types of meditation and kind of helps you figure out which one might be right for you. I personally practice something called transcendental meditation, or TM, which you can Google. By the way, if you take a training course, like the proper course by the TM organization, it's pretty expensive. I'm not actually suggesting you do that. I'm not suggesting you don't do that. If you have the money, it's a great thing to really educate you and train you on meditation. But don't overthink how you need to get started meditating. That's my biggest advice. Just get started today. You can do this today. Don't stress out about the amount of time. Like you talked about time, Mike, and not having time, right? When you do meditate, Mike, do you have a certain amount of time you do it for, or do you use an app?
It varies by type of meditation I'm trying at the time, but it's usually under 20 minutes.
Okay. So when I do TM, actually has some pretty specific times that you're supposed to do. I'm not even going to get into that detail, but my advice to people is start small and build up for longer sessions. So when I meditate, I do a 23-minute session because that is, again, the way I was trained and what I've kind of gotten in the habit of doing. It's 20 minutes and it's like a 3-minute kind of, I was going to say letdown. That doesn't sound right. Cool down at the end or something. I literally think you can start with 2 minutes, right? You can start with 5 minutes, right? And you can pick a short amount of time that you can kind of squeeze in and then build up, right? So maybe say, I'm going to do whatever works for you in terms of setting goals, but it might be that for this first week, I'm going to practice 2 minutes a day. And then the next week, I'm going to push myself to increase that to 5 minutes a day. And again, there's some different apps that will help you do this that we'll talk about in a minute also. But the spirit of it is, again, don't overthink any of this. And I'll tell you what I do, but I'll give you a lot of options. You can sit down on the ground. You can sit on a chair. You can sit on the edge of a bed. It is ideal that you want your posture to be good. So as I'm saying that, I'm like sitting up straight, Mike, because I'm hunched over. You want to be somewhere where it is ideally quiet. I actually wear my noise canceling headphones when I meditate at home and when I'm on a plane or traveling, just because it does drown out a lot of the noise. Your eyes can be open or closed. You can decide to just sit still with your thoughts. You can decide to repeat a mantra. TM, actually, the process is repeating a mantra. And I really like that process. And I'll tell you why in a second. But you can do any of those things, right? And so that's a lot of options. And so if you're like, oh my gosh, well, do I sit on the floor? Or do I sit in a chair? Do I keep my eyes open or do I keep my eyes closed? And you're like, that's overwhelming. I'll tell you what I do is I sit in a chair with my eyes closed and I repeat a mantra over and over again. And let me explain to you the idea of a mantra and why it works. And I'm not going to say my mantra because it's like some Sanskrit word I was given at my TM training, but I'm going to give you a mantra that is friends on fire. I'm not just because it's 3 syllables and I think a 3-syllable mantra is nice for a number of reasons, but imagine that I'm sitting here. I'm going to really pretend to meditate for a second. Okay.
Okay.
I'm sitting here in a chair with good posture. My feet are touching the ground. Or you can sit with your legs crisscrossed. And I'm just, I'm relaxing my body. And I'm just taking very conscious breaths. And I am repeating. I'm not saying it out loud. In my head, I'm repeating, friends on fire. Friends on fire. And the reason you're repeating a mantra is because there's less of what people call monkey mind, right? As you're repeating whatever that mantra, pick a phrase that means something to you. Maybe it's your kids' names or whatever. Just make up a word. As you're repeating that, for TM, it eventually gets you into this state where you're not thinking about anything. And that's what you want to get to. Your mind is empty and clear. What's going to happen though, when you meditate, whether you say a mantra or whether you just sit there quietly focusing on your breathing, which is another thing you can focus on, you are going to constantly have thoughts come into your head. And this is what I think derails a lot of people from meditation. You are going to have thoughts about how you forgot to put the laundry in the dryer, about somebody at work that you're annoyed about how you wish your kids would pick up their dirty laundry, about something you forgot to do. It's going to be all over the place, about some TV show you were watching, right? About a dream you were having. That is normal. You are going to get interrupted, whether you're, again, trying to focus on your breath or trying to repeat a mantra. You are going to all of a sudden realize that you were thinking about something else, right? The laundry, some project you've been meaning to do. You're going to gently, without judgment, which we talked about at the very beginning, you're going to gently push that thought out and say, I'm going to go back to focusing on my breath, or I'm going to go back to focusing on my mantra if I'm repeating a mantra. And that's why I like the mantra, because it gives you something to go back to. So when you start having all these like random thoughts, no judgment, you just say, okay, I just realized I'm thinking about something else. I'm going to go back to my mantra. That, to me, every time I've heard someone sort of struggle with meditation and say that they just didn't get it or couldn't stick with it, it's because they overly judge the fact that they can't sit still and not think about anything. You're not supposed to not be able to think about anything. That's not how the human mind works. Meditation will slowly train you to be able to sit still and actually not think about anything, but that can take months, years, much longer time. And so my biggest, is this making sense, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you just think about it, is okay. And so my last advice on just how to meditate is just start where you are, right? That is actually a Buddhist phrase. Don't overthink this. Don't think I need to buy a meditation pillow. I need to create a meditation corner in my house, right? Just start where you are with what you have, right? And so just get started, right? That is my biggest advice on meditation. So commit that when this podcast finishes, you are going to go sit quietly for 5 minutes. And if 5 minutes feels unreasonable today, 2 minutes.
And just to piggyback on one comment you made, you don't need to spend money to do this. And we would argue that you should not spend money to do this. You should at least get to a point where you have tried it out and you are committed to doing it. You have practiced, you've developed a routine. And then if there is something you want to do to expand it because you have found a passion for meditation, then by all means, go do that. But spending money on an app or a subscription or some other paid service to get you started is not going to be the right motivation for you right now.
Yeah. And so on that note, let's go through a bunch of free apps, some of them that I've used and love, and then a couple that I did some research on to give people more options. So there are some paid apps in this space. Two of the most popular ones are Calm and Headspace. And again, look, if you have a ton of money and you want to do a paid app and that's going to make you feel better, go for it. But I agree with Mike on, I would get started with the free resources that are out there and make sure you actually stick with it before you invest more money in it. I do think Headspace has a free trial. I think Calm might also. But let me, in the spirit of our frugality, we're going to focus on the free apps because there are some really amazing, well done free apps that are out there. And there's way more than I'm even going to cover here. So my favorite two free apps, and these are my husband's favorite two also, and he is actually a more committed meditator than I am, is Insight Timer.
I like that one.
And I just remembered another one. Have you used Insight Timer, Mike?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess you have when you say that you like it. Insight Timer is a great app. It has a ton of different types of guided meditations. And that's one big thing I did not mention. When we were talking about how to actually meditate, that was how to meditate on your own without using an app. So there are a lot of things where it's called a guided meditation. It's a meditation, I don't know if I'd call them a teacher, host, whatever you want to call it, that is guiding you through a meditation. And they're talking at the beginning and end, and then sometimes a little bit during it. There may be guided instructions to start to think about how your body is feeling and to focus on different parts of your body and thinking about that. And so I'm just using that as an example, but the idea of apps is some level of a guided meditation. Another app that is one of my favorites, and this is, you can go to the website or they have an app. It's called Audio Dharma, and we'll put a link in the show notes to it. It is not exactly a meditation app. It is meditation talks. It is a free app and service that is offered by the Insight Meditation Center. And it basically, they've taken all of their meditation talks and put them into this app. And they've got, tons of different teachers, and it goes back, many, many years. And it's got talks on all sorts of things. Like, for example, there's a very specific one in there that my husband reminded me about the other day it's from 2017. It's by one of their teachers called Andrea Fella. And it's called Working with Desire. I'll put a direct link to it in the show notes. It is really focused on your relationship with physical stuff and your desire for things and how it feels to want something, and then how those feelings go away once you get the thing that you wanted. And it's a really great talk about meditation and mindfulness that is focused specifically on your desire for things. So I think meditation talks, and it's kind of like going to school, right? It's a professor talking about some angle of mindfulness or Buddhism, or a number of different topics. And so Audio Dharma is not a meditation app. It's talks about meditation and about the benefits of some of these things. And then there's a couple other apps that I was researching for free meditation apps that are like well ranked and well regarded. And one is called Smiling Mind, and the other one is the UCLA Mindful app. And again, we'll put links in the show notes to both of those. But again, I think there's a lot of apps that are charging a membership fee, which I'm just not a big fan of. I think there's so many great free resources out there that you could use. But if something like Headspace is what's going to do it for you, look, I would value spending money on that over, Starbucks. So I would not do that if that's the thing that you feel like is going to work for you.
All right, Maggie. Well, this was interesting. I do like the Audio Dharma idea. I'm going to go check those out because I think, I've done Insight Timer a bunch, and I've done all the different types of guided meditation that they have in there. But it's always good just to get a reminder of the different types of benefits and ways that you can meditate. So I'll definitely be checking that one out.
The thing that I didn't mention about Insight Timer that I think is interesting to people is there are meditations focused on specific things. So if you're really frustrated by a particular person in your life, you can do a meditation that's focused on forgiveness, right? And so there's very specific topics and types of guided meditations that are focused on specific things like that, which again, I think can be really helpful depending on what's going on in your life and what you are wanting to focus on. Like, for example, there's a guided gratitude meditation.
So let's wrap this up with our top 3 takeaways.
Okay. Number 1, meditation is an incredibly powerful tool, and it is scientifically proven. It works. It helps people.
Number 2, meditation is easy. Even if it starts out a little difficult, people overcomplicate it with their expectations of how to meditate, and they think they can't, but you really can.
Yeah, there's no way. You can't be bad at meditating, right? This isn't like playing a sport or something else. It's just something that you can, improve at over time. Number 3, meditation can help your relationship with accumulating more things, which will in turn help your finances.
All right, Maggie, this was an interesting start to 2022, a loose tie into personal finance, but a strong way to kick off the year with some self-help.
Yeah, I agree. We will, we'll certainly, Mike made a joke at the beginning that this is no longer a personal finance podcast. We will always be focusing on things related to personal finances. So certainly this is one that is tangentially related. I don't even know. I think that's actually underselling the values or the benefits of meditation. But yes, there's again, that's why we're talking about where meditation and money meet together. But hopefully people have gotten something valuable out of this. And if meditation isn't your thing and you're just like, I'm not the person who meditates, like I would challenge that and say like, you might want to like read a little bit more about it and research a little bit more about it. I think the people who it can help the most are often the people who believe in it the least. And I'll be starting my MLM meditation business
Right.
soon.
You're gonna strike it big.
Please sign up.
Well, thanks everybody for listening. If you've been challenged or inspired by what you've heard, please rate and review the show. You can also subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode.
If you have any thoughts or questions, we would always love to hear from you. And you can leave us a voicemail or text us at 404-981-3370, or you can hit us up on Instagram. And Happy New Year.
Yeah. Happy New Year, everybody.
2022. Woo woo. Okay. Bye, Mike.
Bye, Maggie.